Hi guys, welcome to Knitting with You. I'm Nikki. Today we're going to go over a lace basics tutorial. Lace knitting can be intimidating at first, so I'm going to give you a show and tell of the basics today. I also wanted to show you a way to join for circular knitting that allows you to not twist your cast on row. It does use basic crochet techniques, which I thought would be interesting to some of the viewers. And I'll walk you through it, just in case you're not a crocheter. So let's get started. Lace knitting consists of placing yarn overs, denoted as YOs, strategically throughout your fabric for an overall aesthetic appeal. The yarn overs are usually accompanied by decreases. They can be either immediately before or after the yarn overs, however this is not a strict rule of thumb. Today I'll show you what a yarn over looks like and some of the basic decreases you'll see in lace knitting patterns. Also, I'll show you how to use a lifeline. So first off, I'm going to show you a few samples that I've prepared. I think these are pretty good examples of how decreases and yarn overs work together to create the overall look of your knitting. My first one is pairing yarn overs with decreases immediately before or after. And let's see if I can get a better view for you guys. Here we go. Now, as you can see, the yarn overs are placed for diagonal appeal here, and the pattern itself creates a diamond in the middle. But you'll see that the decreases create movement throughout the fabric. And the way you place your decreases also open up your yarn overs. And once the piece is blocked, it really comes to life with lace knitting. So if you are going to do lace knitting, I advise that you definitely block your finished project, because it just helps set the yarn overs even more so. So you can see these are knit two togethers, and these are slip slip knits. You can also knit two through the back loop to create this effect as well. So your knit two togethers will always create a right leaning stitch, and your slip slip Ks or your knit two together through the back loops will also create left slanting stitches. So there's our first sample. My next sample shows you how a yarn over might not necessarily be directly before or after your decrease. This sample is also interesting in the fact that this uses double decreases. So they're not, each yarn over does not have a directly related decrease with it. So you see there's a yarn over that creates these holes on each side of the work, but there's only a single double decrease in the center. And you can see how this creates movement, and it pulls the stitches towards your double decrease. So using these stitches in different combination creates all sorts of beautiful, pleasing fabrics. And I encourage everyone to go ahead and experiment with these different stitches, see what kind of fabrics you can come up with. It's a lot of fun. I mean, these two I did the other night, just playing around to see, try to get some good examples for you guys. Alright, so let's begin. Today I have some scrap yarn. I tried to pick some bright colors so they'd be easier to see. And I'm using size 8 knitting needles. When you do lace, normally you want to use a larger needle than what is called for your yarn. This helps make larger holes, and it also gives your finished fabric a more airy look, which is a classic appeal of lace in itself. So I'm just going to do a basic backward loop cast on today, and I'm going to just put on 10 stitches just to give you guys an idea of these different excuse me, these different stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. Alright, I might have to adjust my camera a little bit here. Bear with me. 2 seconds. This might work. I can probably leave it where it is. I apologize. I am getting over a cold. Let's see here. Alright. So I'm just going to do a straight knit row just to get us started here. So I guess just to chatter for a minute from the viewers, I'd like to hear what kind of lace knitting you prefer. Do you prefer circular lace knitting, flat lace knitting? Do you like traditional lace knitting where you decrease and yarn over on both knit and purl sides? Or do you prefer the technique where you usually just straight purl on your purl rows and you only do your decreases and yarn overs on your knit side? Personally, I tried both, and I believe that the traditional knitting where you decrease and increase, or decrease and yarn over on both sides can be very beautiful, but it also can be very intricate. You have some very cute patterns where you just knit on the front side. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to adjust my camera view a little bit here. Let's see, bring it up a bit. Oh, pardon me. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So, it's a little blurry today. Might have to clean the lens. Ah, there we go. Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to show you is pairing traditional decreases with your yarn overs. Now, because your slants, your decreases pull away from your yarn overs, depending on what decrease you're doing will generally give you an idea of where your yarn over will be in relation to your decrease. So to start out with, I'm going to show you a knit two together. And all it is instead of knitting one stitch together, you go through and you pick up two stitches the same way. So you can see I have my two stitches. And you just go ahead and knit these two as if they were one stitch. Slide it right off. So there's your first decrease. Now after this you would do a yarn over. And what you do is you just pull your yarn right over the needle. That's why it's called a yarn over. Very simple. Then you go ahead and continue with your work. So that'll create a right leading slant with a yarn over immediately after. The next one I want to show you is your excuse me, is your left slanting decrease. You usually put a yarn over before this. So this time we'll yarn over first. And just bring my yarn right over. And then you can slip, slip, knit. So you insert your needle like you're going to knit, but you just slide it off, and you do that with the second one. That's your two slips, your slip, slip. So they're just hanging out there on your other needle. These are my two slip stitches right here. You insert your left needle back through in the front, so you're knitting your right hand needle is still behind like you would knit, and you just bring your yarn around the back needle and pull through like you're knitting. I'm going to go ahead and purl the next row just so you guys can see the effect that that has. So we've been getting a lot of snow up where I am, and it has been downright cold, and my hands are shaking a bit because it is chilly in the house. We have our pellet stove going and our electric heaters going, and we're still having trouble keeping it like above 65 in the house. And with everybody having colds, it's kind of not helping trying to stay warm. So I apologize for the shakiness of my hands today. I just cannot seem to stay warm physically, and it's tough. But I wanted to get this done before we started our December knit along, because we will be doing some lace knitting in December. Okay, so let's see if we can get a clear view of how this looks here. Alright, it's kind of hard to see the slants because it's so close. But if we look at the sample here, you can see them really well, how they end up slanting to the left and right. And this is essentially what I'm doing. I mean, if you look at this top part here, this is what I just did for you guys. So that's what it ends up looking like when it's all said and done. I'm going to do basically the same thing for you, but instead for the left decrease, instead of a slip slip knit, I'm going to show you the knit 2 through the back loop. And it is usually denoted as K2TBL. So in case you ever see that, that's what it looks like. So we go ahead and we knit 2 together, and then we yarn over. Oh my goodness, I apologize, I'm everywhere today. So there's that, there's our yarn over. See it? Yarn over. And then we're going to go to our left slanted pair. Just knit right across. Here we go. So this time we yarn over first, and then we're going to knit through 2 through the back loop. So instead of knitting from the front, you just put your needles into the back. Can you see that okay? Yeah, this one goes right through the back. And then you just knit them together. And it'll give you a left leaning slant. You can see it's kind of pulling away. It opens up the yarn over quite a bit there. So those are our basic pairings of yarn overs and decreases. I'm going to show you a yarn over, what it looks like from purling. It's pretty simple. I also want to talk about decreasing on the purling side in case you wanted to get into lace knitting where you are yarn overing and decreasing on the front and back of your fabric. So to do a yarn over from the purl side is also very simple. You're going to just take your yarn and yarn right over your needle, just like that, and you can continue on. And I'll do a quick decrease. A word about decreasing on the back. The purling decreases usually correspond directly to what you're doing on the front. So if you want a right leaning or right slanting decrease, you're going to purl 2 together. It'd just be like a knit 2 together. And if you want a right leaning decrease, or a left leaning decrease, excuse me, you would either, oh goodness, I forgot, forgive me. You want to twist your, that's right, you want to twist. So we're going to do this, like we're going to knit, and then we'll just purl them together. And that'll create a left slant. Oop. My hands are still shaky. I'm having some difficulty today. So we have those. And you just continue. I should probably throw another yarn over in there just for consistency's sake. So we have the same number of stitches. There we go. And here are our 2 decreases right here. So here's your right leaning. And this one would be left leaning if I had yarned over next to it, but instead I yarned over after. I'm going to show you a double decrease, and then we'll talk a minute about lifelines. So a double decrease involves 3 stitches. Now a right leaning double decrease would be just knit 3 together, so you would go ahead and pull through 3. 1, 2, it doesn't want to separate, but I assure you there are 3 stitches on my needle. So we would do that and just knit them together as if they were 1. So there's your right leaning double decrease. And that is good for 2 yarn overs. So I'd yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. And then I'll show you another one on the next row for our left slanting double decrease. Oops. Man, my hands are cold. I apologize. Maybe if I turn this off, I'll be able to see a little better what I'm doing. That glare from the monitor is probably not making things easy. Alright, I'm just going to purl straight back. There are double decreases for purling as well, but I'm not going to get into them today because you do not see them very often. Oh, excuse me. Alright. Left-leaning decrease. Left-leaning double decrease, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Rough day today. Alright, so I'll knit two. I'm going to do a yarn over first, and I'll show you double decrease. So you're going to slip one. You'll knit the next two together. And we will pass the slip stitched over, which is usually abbreviated as PSSO, pass slip stitch over. So there's your left leaning, you see the yarn over, it pulls to the left, left leaning double decrease. So those are our basic lace knitting stitches. And you'll see these stitches all over lace knitting patterns. So I hope that helps. Now, a quick word about lifelines. These are great ways to mark your progress and also help you not lose your entire project if by chance you miss a yarn over or you miss a decrease or you just completely mess up the row. And all you do is you take some scrap yarn and you put it on a yarn needle. And the smoother the yarn, the better, because it won't catch the other fiber that happens to be what you're working with. And you just slide it through your stitches, just like so. And sometimes it can be kind of tedious to do this, but I would definitely advise using lifelines because they can really be lifesavers, hence the term, hence why they're called lifelines. So now you have this thread coming through, and I'll show you the purpose of this real quick. With this in here, you can just go ahead and it doesn't interfere with your knitting at all. You know, so you do 2 rows, and say you realize you messed up. All you really need to do at this point is find your lifeline, and you're going to insert your needle right parallel with your lifeline. So you see your lifeline here. You're just going to take your needle and you're going to follow your lifeline right where it goes, where your needle goes, just like that. Just follow your lifeline. Very simple. Just like that. So now you have salvaged your work from this point down, and you can easily rip out what you've done where you messed up, and you can continue on from that saved point where you inserted your lifeline. So definitely, if you've never used a lifeline before, I would advise practicing with it. So that's what we have for there. We're going to go ahead and pull this right out. The last thing I wanted to show you today is a crochet technique for passing on and around without twisting your stitches. So I have a crochet hook, I have some other scrap yarn. It's always a good idea to use a contrasting color for this. And the reason I like doing this is not only does it keep you from twisting your work, but it can also double as a stitch counter or stitch marker. Basically, all you do is you start with a slip knot, you insert your hook through the loop, and you make a crochet chain. And this is pretty simple, straightforward. All you do is you take your yarn, you wrap it around your hook, kind of like a yarn over, and you pull it through. And you do this, you wrap your yarn around your hook, you pull through until you have a chain that is the desired length of the piece that you are casting on. So this is the first step. So you make a chain that's the length of what you need. I'm going to keep going a little bit more because I want to have it long enough to actually use 3 needles here. Alright, the next step is to do a single crochet along the top, but there's a little bit of a twist to it. So you can either, a lot of people will insert their hook through your bottom loop. So if you look at the front of your crochet chain, and you'll see if you turn it upside down, it's kind of like knitting. You end up with your little V's. If you look on the back, you get bars that run across. I don't know if you can really see them. A lot of people will crochet through the bars when they're starting. But for speed's sake, I'm going to go ahead and just go through one of the top loops. So you insert your hook, you're going to do a yarn over or a wrap again, and pull through the first loop so you have 2 on your hook. You're going to wrap around again, and you're going to pull through. This is a single crochet stitch. You're going to insert, wrap around, pull through, wrap around, pull through 2. You're going to go ahead and do this. And here's the catch I was telling you about. What you want to do with one of these is make it a little bit larger, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I'm going to give this some slack, leave it just like that, and I'm going to continue on. Oops, I lost my stitches. There we go. And believe me when I say my crochet work is usually not this sloppy. I actually enjoy crocheting, and it was the first trade I learned. My mother taught me. So I'm going to go ahead and give another slack on this stitch here, and I'm going to keep going every so often. If you know your gauge, excuse me, and you've already done your swatch, you can figure out based on 10 stitches where to give your slack. This looks like to me it'd be about 5 stitches. But you can space out. Oopsie. What am I doing? I don't want to double crochet. Alright, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. There we go. We're almost to the end. I apologize, this might bore some of you, but it's definitely something I wanted to share with everybody. Alright, we'll give this one a little bit of slack. I'll just put these off because I don't need to hold on to them anymore. Okay, so this is going to look really strange when it's all said and done. but you'll get the idea once I've finished here. It'll be pretty nifty, I promise you. Oop. I'll give another slack there. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off this excess here. What we end up with is this weird loopy looking thing, but it's essentially a flat band with loops on it. And you can adjust these slacky holes just by pulling on what you have. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that back out. Now, when you go ahead and start casting on, you're going to intermittently slide this crocheted piece on behind your work. And I'm going to do so. Say I put this one on the back to mark the beginning of my round, and I'll pull that tight just like that. So I have 3 stitches. I'll go ahead and slide this one on, and I'll pull it tight too. And you'll see that this works to keep the stitches lined up in front. So I continue casting on. And I'll go ahead to my next needle. And I'll slide on my next loop, which is right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one tight. And I'll do 3 more. And I'll pull on my next loop from the back here. Always want to keep it to the back of your work. Pull that tight. There we go. I'll grab my next needle. Go ahead and slide this on the back. Pull it tight. Continue on casting on. Oops, somehow that ended up in the front. Oh, no, it didn't. I did it right. See, that was already twisting. You can see it was already twisting. So you keep it lined up in the front. And theoretically, if you have your gauge worked out and everything, oh, see, this one's twisting now too. There we go. This straight band will be flush right against the back of your work, and it would look just like this. And it would allow your stitches from twisting. So as long as you see that your cast on is in front of your crocheted line, like that, it'll keep your stitches from twisting. I know this is kind of a sloppy, it's actually a very sloppy example, but it works wonders. And you'll also note that as you knit around, you can slide these right off like stitch markers, and they'll help keep your count, and they'll help mark where your beginning row is. So everything's in front. You can just bring it around, and you would be able to join and just continue knitting. So I would slide this first loop or stitch marker off and keep that in the back just like that. Come here, you. Get that in the back of the work there. And you just continue knitting just like they were stitch markers. And that would ensure that your cast on will not twist. Splitty yarn. There we go, guys. And you come to your next loop, and you can just slide it right off, just like that, and you continue knitting. And you won't end up with any twists in your cast on. And it's quite a lovely, lovely, beautiful thing. Some people I know actually have preset crocheted strips for different gauges. I always want to say gauge. It's this weird linguistic problem I have. My sister constantly makes fun of me for it. But they have preset bands for different gauges. And depending on what they're working with, they'll go ahead and just grab their strip that they have already prepared. And some of them, you don't have to knit it to the exact length, or you don't have to crochet it to the exact length of your fitted work. They'll have pieces that are, gosh, like 3 feet long, and the excess just kind of hangs off the back of the work, you know, so you end up with just what you need for your project. But then you always have your strip for when you need it for the next circular project you want to do. So any comments you guys have, greatly appreciated. If anyone is interested in any other types of lace work, I am familiar with broomstick lace, if you're ever been curious about that, and also hairpin lace, which both are crochet techniques for creating lace. There's also fillet lace. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's also a crochet technique. So if you are a lace lover, you love knitting lace, and you'd like to see maybe a tutorial on a broomstick lace technique or a hairpin lace technique, just go ahead and let me know. You can post it on any of the threads, you know, members' questions or what have you. So I hope this was helpful for some of you guys that may or may not have actually worked a lace project before. I definitely wanted to get it out there for anyone who is going to be participating in our lace cal for December. And I apologize that my hands are so shaky. It really is very cold where I am. We're talking teens and below, so bear with me. And this cold that is just being passed around from the kids at school, it just does not want to let go of you once it has taken hold of you. So that's all for tonight, guys. I am looking forward to drawing the winner of the November knit along. I'll be doing that tomorrow night, as we will be closing the post tonight. Happy knitting.